Little bit of devil's advocate with us, because I don't know whether you think 25% more is too much or whether you think that this is just all blown out of proportion completely.
You know, I think, well, two things. One is, hedge funds do add some value. As a matter of fact, the guys at Bronte Capital, a guy named John Huntsman, if memory serves, was one of the early guys to say that Alibaba might, in fact, have something to look at. So, there are people in there still adding value.
Well, some hedge funds and some managers in some hedge funds add value, like everywhere.
And that's exactly right? But, the biggest question is when we look at the performance of the hedge funds over the long run versus, say, the S&P, what you see is a relatively strong period of outperformance. Since 1990, they've actually outperformed. All of the underperformance has occurred since the days of negative rates. And you can see that flat line, basically since rate went negative.
Well, looking, this is going back. Now,
yes.
You see, to 2000.
Correct.
And the white line is the hedge fund performance, which is nicely above the S&P.
Exactly.
But now, in recent times, they've crossed.
And not just recent times, but really negative rates times, right? And, those headwinds, the things that have driven a lot of these commentaries, there's a line I read somewhere that past performance is no guarantee of future results. Right. And, and it's been a long time now, right? We've had this negative rate environment, since 2009. But that environment itself, the question is the sustainability of that. The hedge funds have had some headwinds, right? This continuous decline in interest rates has made it very difficult to outperform. You've had 28 quarters since the 2009. Of those 28 quarters, we've been down only 4. Right? We've been down only 4 of those quarters. And that's really, really hard to maintain when you're hedging, to maintain that bull market. The central banks are going to slowly start to distort the markets less. The relentless decline in rates will also help to fade. And last but not least, second last but not least, the hedge fund distribution models. They've had a lot of competitors that have come up. The UCITS, the liquid alternatives. There are alternatives now that didn't exist. And finally, I think what you're going to see is that the change in the hedge funds themselves will change, and they have to change. The huge funds that are constantly selling stuff to each other.
Completely, why is it unthinkable that 25% of money will come out of some of these strategies that obviously aren't working, and some hedge fund shops that obviously are not outperforming, and go elsewhere into some new strategies?
It isn't unthinkable in the short run. You could absolutely do that. In fact, I know some absolutely first-rate funds that have had really funds with awards and top-flight performance that have seen some withdrawal. But the bottom line on that, I think, Vonnie, is what's the performance 5 years hence, or, looking up the road? If you see interest rates going back up, where else are you going to go? The world is addicted to cheap money.
Yeah, Fabio, this is a spirited and able defense, all right? But the question also is, how much are you paying for that kind of performance? And we had our Eric Schatzker actually just talked to Bill Gross, a name you've heard of, from Janus Capital, right? And he had some thoughts about exactly how much people are paying for this performance. Let's take a look.
I know Bill's a positive guy.
If markets only provide 3 or 4%, they're taking more than half of the money that an investor gives them in terms of the annual profits. Things have to change, and people have to wake up that it's a different world now.
So, Fabio, isn't that right? I mean, hedge funds 2 and 20 makes some sense if you're getting 12, 15, 17% returns. When you're down at 4, 5, 6%, when you take the 2 and 20 out, there's very little left for the investor.
Well, the 2 is under pressure, but I'll tell you this, 2 things. One is Bill was one of the guys who launched PIMCO's hedge fund, the PARS program. PARS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So first of all, he got with that program. But second of all, let's wait to see what Bill's performance is like in a weird, bizarre, inconceivable environment called rates going up. Right? When you're long only, what's he going to do? Go short the index duration is 5 years. By golly, I'm going to go to 3. I'll lose you money less slowly is not a really great sales argument, and I think one that they may end up facing, in the future. And that's where the 2 and 20 will come to pass.